So welcome back to the Bootleg Corner. It is yet another movie review of House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 5. It is yet another collection of haphazard events, hallucinations, enthronement of a new king, and the brutality of the killings. So last episode ended with Rhaenys and Meleys dying in battle, and we can only imagine how Corlys Velaryon must feel. Bare hours ago, his wife was at his side, and now she and her dragon are never to be seen again, and his wife lies dead in some open field. So he will be questioning not just himself, but his beliefs and then life in general. His wife, and probably who is his best friend, is slain in battle after so many years together, and is just as heartbroken as you could imagine. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, there's raging hunger amongst the common folk, and someone thought it wise and uplifting to parade the head of a dead dragon in the streets. Criston Cole, Hand of the King and head of the King's Guard, even had the guts to ask why the people weren't cheering. I mean, dude, these people have been hit the hardest by the blockade. There is no food, medicine, or whatever essential items they might need. They are hungry. Whatever business they operate is slow, and it's really looking bleak for them. So why would they cheer about the death of a dragon? I mean, the dragon is a symbol of the Targaryens, a shield of strength, and the divine right to rule, plus whatever mysteries are added to justify their position. And now you are parading a dead one through the streets. Basically, you are destroying the last shred of belief they've held on to, because even if they are starving, at least they had hope that things will get better at some point. I mean, look at this kid here. Says he thought that dragons were gods and probably invincible, because that you see that is a common sentiment. You have a dead dragon, a king who is seriously injured in battle, executed rat catchers who still hang in gallows in full sight of the public, and then the harshest living conditions most of these people have ever faced. It's a no-brainer that they would think of it as a bad omen. On the other hand, Daemon is still at Harrenhal trying to get it fixed, but still stumbling around in dreams and hallucinations, and this time he sees his mother in one of those hallucinations. Now, it's only God that can explain why the showrunners wrote a scene of him having sex with her, but then it's maybe meant to signify something, but another time we'll discuss the strange perversions of the showrunners at yet another time. But it seems as usual, Daemon has reverted to his self-serving ways and now plots his own path to be king. He's chafing at being called a prince. Now he wants to be called a king, and even when he goes to bend knees of allies to Rhaenyra's cause, he's telling the Brackens to bend their knees to him as king. Alicent on her own is in a soup of her own making. The son she put on the throne is probably going to die, and if he survives, he may become very paraplegic, because if getting burnt by dragon fire and falling hundreds of feet from the sky don't put him out of commission, then I think the writers are not being serious with their jobs. But the meat of the matter is now there needs to be a regent to rule in Aegon's stead, and while Alicent thinks she's the best person for the job, it appears she's the only person who thinks so. She puts herself forward, but everyone else on the small council, except the Grand Maester, favor Aemond to do the job. Now, according to the books and whatever, Aemond is supposed to be a teenager at this point, but looking at him and what he's done in this series so far, you would think he was the elder and Aegon was the teenager. But Alicent had already set things in motion when she plotted with her father to steal the throne for Rhaenyra, blocking the chance for a female ruler of Westeros for the first time in whatever years. But now, when she's clearly the best person for the job, no one is looking at her because she's not a man. I mean, even look at Mr. Criston Cole, who doesn't even know how close he came to becoming a father if Alicent Plan B medicine hasn't worked. Vote for Aemond to become regent. I mean, it's partly because of her gender, and also because why have an outsider on the throne when you have a near adult Targaryen heir who is actually seeing battle nearby? Alicent may have married into the family, but she's not really a Targaryen, and Aemond is, so that's just another way to see it. Rhaenyra, like Alicent, is very much without a solid base beneath her. Her council, much like Alicent, don't really believe in her or respect her that much. They talk over her, interrupt her, and treat her like she's not even important. And when she asks this question,
what would you have me do?
I can only think of the parallels with Aegon in the past episode where Alicent answers nothing when Aegon asked her what she wanted him to do, because if it were up to her council, she would sit in bed knitting pillows while they did the actual government work. And this is where Rhaenyra will have to learn and display some fearlessness and daring if she wants to really gain command. Nobody's going to fight for a feeble queen, and she needs that question of ruthlessness answered emphatically. Her enemies have struck her and her allies multiple times, and she's yet to fire back any serious response. Laena's visit to House Arryn to cement an alliance is not even going smoothly because the dragons she brought as part of the deal are too little to be of any use in battle. So we can see how thin Rhaenyra's resources are spent, and it's no surprise that the houses are flocking to her side. Jaehaerys on his own is trying his best to do something without messing up his mother's plans. He's heir to the throne, but ever since Luke's death, Rhaenyra hasn't really let him outside Dragonstone because she's most likely afraid of losing another son. But he decides to go on his own to see the Freys, and every time they are mentioned in this story, I can only think about the Red Wedding and their duplicity in Game of Thrones. Even here, when he's meeting with the Freys, they look so oily, like snake oil salesmen. I can only expect them to betray Rhaenyra at some later points. But their terms of bargain are so steep. They want Harrenhal, and I'm asking myself, is it the same Harrenhal that Daemon has been having mental breakdowns trying to fix? Because if he ends up fixing that broken down mess and he hears Rhaenyra has promised it to another person, he might just burn it back down to the ground. Then Rhaenyra sends Baela to offer the position of Hand of the King to Corlys Velaryon, and I can't even imagine how he feels upon hearing that request. I mean, imagine you just lost your wife, so you are still grieving, and then the person you are fighting for is asking you to make another sacrifice when you haven't even recovered from the trauma of the first. I mean, that is very much jarring, so I understand his reaction perfectly, even though he later accepts the job. On the other hand, then Daemon has gone overboard on his quest for alliances. The men he sent out have used the excuse to carry out their own grievances against the people he very much wants to rule. Men who have refused to bend the knee under the threat of death are just the kind of soldiers he needed, and his harsh judgment and policies have alienated them from him. So for Daemon, he will need to find a middle ground to mix ruthlessness and patience, because charging headfirst into problems hasn't yielded any good fruit so far. So this episode is basically a paradox of learning arcs for Daemon and Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra needs to learn to go harder, and Daemon needs to learn to soften his touch to see any feasible progress. But they are basically learning on the job and working from weakened positions, so they are bound to make plenty mistakes. All in all, it's an episode of the forgotten and the ignored. Alicent, Rhaenyra, Mysaria, Helaena, Baela and Laena, all in their ways, are trying to make an impact in their harsh worlds with whatever resources they have, and these worlds will push back against them as hard as possible. Aemon now rules Team Green, and he's very much a more decisive character without the distraction of council members whispering constantly in his ear. The only person he really talks to is Criston Cole, because both of them are battle-minded with the ongoing war. So we'll see just how much little influence Alicent or Larry Strong will have on him. Also, with Aegon waking up at the end of the episode, when Aemon finds out, he will know that is not in his best interest, and Aegon's return to the land of the living will not be a good thing for him. So he has to make sure his job of regent is made into something more permanent, and I think we can expect an attempt on Aegon's life in the coming episodes. But with Aegon now inactive, I wonder how Larry Strong will ingratiate himself into Aemon's ear and what the reception will be, and I'm sure we'll find out real soon. Aemon has ordered them to cut down the rat catchers from the gallows, but he has also ordered the city gates to be shut. So people who are already in hardship just got their lives made harder, and I'm pretty sure that is going to count very much in how they revenge their grievances against the crown in future. So in totality, we've got some shaky alliances, a new regent in King's Landing. Alicent has lost whatever little standing she has. Daemon is plotting his own course to be king, and the showrunners are adding some weird scenes to capture Daemon's psychotic mind, even if I think they've gone too far. So any questions, thoughts, or beliefs to be put in the comment section as usual. This is still the Bootleg Corner. Hit the button to subscribe and I'll be back.